You're going, a lot of these people that work with high risk merchants, the sales guys, they're going, look, if I can get them if I can get them processing, that's a win, because they just need processing. They have more customers, but then when you send them to the wrong person and they let them process for 3-4 months and then they take all their money. And what do you think that does? This guy, he's going, well, I'm not working with that sales agent anymore because you set me up with these guys. And did you know about that? I'm like, I don't know.
Or they didn't explain the business, right? I mean, it's like, hey, I need to get a mid, and the merchant doesn't understand the pitfalls.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, if I'm in a high risk business, like we find people that come through on Match for a single chargeback, right? And a lot of times it's not the chargeback. It's the business that got underwritten from which the chargeback comes.
Welcome to the Payments Experts Podcast, a podcast of Global Legal Law Firm. We hope you enjoy this episode. We're really excited. We have an in-studio podcast today with the managing partners of our law firm, Christopher Dryden, as well as James Huber. Gentlemen, you guys have been doing this a long time now, almost 20 years. You've dealt with a lot of, or seen the high-risk industry in a lot of facets. James, maybe get us started today. What were you guys first seeing when you got into this industry in regards to high risk?
Yeah, well, first, when we talk about high-risk processing, we're talking about merchants that have a lot of chargebacks. Is there any other definition of high risk?
No, yeah, I mean, stuff that would come under regulatory scrutiny. I mean, it's kind of whatever's on the restricted list of a sponsor bank's underwriting guidelines, which can fall into a lot of different buckets. But I mean, originally, like, high risk was anybody who does online commerce.
That was everything online.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are some even government orders that say high risk is online business if it's 10% or more before the internet really took hold.
But it's interesting though, because over time, some of the ISOs that we've actually done agreements for, they've got like a 3 tiers or 3 buckets. Like it was low risk and then medium risk, and I think medium risk was this bucket that evolved after everybody went online with COVID, and then high risk really needed a different definition at that point in time. High risk was anything that was susceptible to chargeback, like James said, at a distance that anybody could charge you anywhere from 5 to 10% for.
Yeah, I know. It was a gold mine for our clients, but then there was also the risk originally is you take a high risk account, and Chris, you're right, it's not just chargebacks. If you're selling peptides or something that people are looking at, that's considered high risk, even if you don't have a lot of chargebacks. But somebody selling online, they do have a lot of chargebacks, mostly because consumers are all criminals. They're doing chargebacks, whether they're getting it or not.
Yeah, there's a ton of friendly fraud out there. But for us, what I see as chargeback or high risk today isn't necessarily stuff with chargebacks, like you said. It's the things that we do opinion letters for that are like super dynamic, like peptides. Like we have people that call us for, hey, I need an opinion letter about peptides. And it's like, peptides is a really broad term. Like, I mean, what precisely are you looking for? Sweepstakes is the other one, right? I mean, it's like people that want to have online properties that are selling or brokering things that just have a lot of regulatory scrutiny, even today, around them. Anything that you put in your body is going to have regulatory scrutiny. So if you're selling that online, you better be prepared to A, pay a high cost to do those transactions, and B, have people come ask you a lot of questions that you don't seem to think are really important, but are. Like, where did you get all of this stuff? And, are these actually pharmaceutical drugs that you're passing off as peptides? And I mean, there's all sorts of things that go into it.
Yeah, well, maybe on the high cost is that sometimes merchants get charged a high cost in certain industries, but there are sales organizations out there that know that industry well. They're familiar with it. They have us behind them saying, here's all the regulations and everything like this. Actually, this isn't high risk. So there are certain merchants who, I'm high risk. I'm used to paying 6-7%. where we're seeing with some of the people we work with that they're charging regular rates to what some of these high risk merchants are. But I want to go back to what we would see in the beginning is you take a high risk merchant account and you're making all of this money. And then it turns out that it's a fake. It's a burner account. It's a blowout account. And they'd go, oh my gosh, in 4 hours, they all of a sudden started charging back 400, 600K. And our clients would go, our systems didn't catch it. It just was blowout, or we had no idea. We didn't even have the systems in the beginning, a bunch of them. And I remember talking to some of our ISOs and I'm going, why aren't you getting some of these high risk accounts? These accounts that you have, they're making you 6, 7, 20, $300 a month. This high risk account, I'm watching this guy make $200,000 a month in residuals. Why aren't you taking that? They're going, it's too risky. It's too high risk. I don't have that money to pay it back. That's more than I get paid. So I don't want those accounts. But then what we saw is people building the systems to manage these things, because you're really, in this industry, you're worried about the fraudulent merchants. Most of the high-risk chargebacks is not a fraudulent merchant. It's that consumers buy something online and they don't want it. Or they're going, why should I have to pay for it? It's too easy to do a chargeback. And then, some companies advertise things that aren't, it wasn't endorsed by Oprah, things like that. But then there are also, for a long time, there was subscription, free trial, 30 days. Most of that's gone.
Negative option enrollment. The FTC got involved in that. So
yeah.
you
where
have to
I
register that for that.
Where I see it a lot, guys, on the front end, coaching. A lot of, where these guys are saying, hey, I'll help, advise your business. I'll get your SEO going. All those guys are high risk.
Any type of services, online. It's funny though, like I was talking to somebody that does primarily high risk, a couple guys when we were at WSAA, and they were talking about how, as you were just saying, high risk has shifted. Like it used to be like telehealth or, some sort of actual prescription meds. Like even with legit script, like it used to be that was a good margin. Now it's like super competitive because there's so much more oversight within the underwriting and the management of it that it doesn't look like high risk anymore. So the merchants that are doing it can command better rates almost because there's less of a chargeback issue. Like so one of the things that we see, and that we have a couple of clients that we work with. If we have if somebody who's hard to place comes to us with another problem and they're looking for processing, sometimes we'll send them off. And the cool thing about the people that we send them to is they look at the merchant holistically. And then they get on the phone with the merchant and the bank to see if the bank's willing to take on the risk, because that's usually where your problem is with the bank. Like if the more that you can exchange with the bank about one particular merchant to get them to understand what needs to be done or what if it's a yes or a no, versus like what I'll see a lot of times, and this is like Shopify, Stripe, horrible organizations because they just approve you. You fog the mirror, put whatever you need to put on the application, and then 3 weeks later, after you've run $150,000 to $200,000 in transactions, they're like, "Oh, what's this person doing here?" And nothing's changed, right?
And then they hold all your money.
And
so we see, we run into it a lot of. In high-risk processing, the processor, the bank, they want to, limit their risk. So they'll take a big reserve. It's a percentage or a flat amount to offset those chargebacks if processing shuts down and you can't pay for it. But what we see a lot of processors out there do is they're making money off of this reserve. I hear it over and over and over. We run into all the time of they've got a big reserve, they're supposed to hold on to it for 6 months, or their agreement says they can hold on to it for 6 months. But what those processors will do is they'll start taxing fees on it. I'll see it all the time of the merchant will get shut down. So they hold the reserve and they're going, oh, we're having these chargebacks come in. We're not going to take it from the reserve. We're going to take it from your account. But that account has $0 in it now. So they'll run 2 a day trying to ACH it, knowing it's going to reject, but the agreement has an ACH reject fee of $25 or something, and the cost that they get is $2. So they're clocking $23 each time, multiple times a day for 6 months. And they're saying, oh yeah, we ate it all up. We were trying to ACH you. You weren't listening. You're going, what? Why would you be ACHing me? You have the money here. Take it from here. And it could be, $400 and they'll eat up hundreds of thousands of dollars. So,
or shutting off RDR or the ISO or the merchant's ability to even service it and figure out if there is any defense to what's taking place. I mean,
they'll close them out completely.
Yeah, that's what makes the chargebacks go exponential. And in addition to the ACH reject fee, every single time that there's a contest and then a chargeback, there's fees associated with that are profit centers for them. So it actually makes sense when there is a big reserve on file. I mean, the ACH reject fee is one thing. The chargeback fee is like $30.
Yeah, they're banking on it. So you're going, a lot of these people that work with high risk merchants, the sales guys, they're going, look, if I can get them a mid, if I can get them processing, that's a win because they just need processing. They have more customers, but then when you send them to the wrong person and they let them process for 3-4 months and then they take all their money. And what do you think that does? This guy, he's going, well, I'm not working with that sales agent anymore because you set me up with these guys. And did you know about that? I'm like, I don't know.
Or they didn't explain the business, right? I mean, it's like, hey, I need to get a mid. And the merchant doesn't understand the pitfalls.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, if I'm in a high risk business, like we find people that come through on Match for a single chargeback, right? And a lot of times it's not the chargeback. It's the business that got underwritten from which the chargeback comes. Dude, like, that's a problem, because now you've got somebody in there looking at it, and it's not just that there was a chargeback, that there's a question of what's the legality of this transaction at all? How did this person get through underwriting? And then to save face, you've got them just getting banged on Match for nothing. And that's because the agents see dollar signs. They don't see, how do I make this last for a long time? It's all short-term vision, right? Like, how do I find a relationship where I can prove that what my business model is, though high risk, does have legitimacy and a low chargeback rate? I need to find a partner who's willing to work with me, that if there is like some sort of bump in the road, they don't just run for cover, or worse off, try to extort me based on the written agreement that they forced me into, right? Just to get the processing. So I don't know. I mean, that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues is you need these partners to have strong relationships because, what was it, 5-6 years ago when the banks all of a sudden said, wow, high risk, that's where we can actually make some money, because the bank generally doesn't make a lot of money in merchant processing. At least they didn't used to. They've gotten a little wiser. But what happened is when the banks saw this high risk, they're going, oh, great, bring it in. And then there's huge blowouts. The banks are getting sued and all of that. And so a bunch of these, high risk players in the space, they pretty much ruined it for everybody. So that the only few players that still know how to do high risk and to make it so you're not blowing up relationships and getting sued, there's only a few of them right now in the space because, like I said, a couple bad actors, or not bad actors, a couple people ruined it for everybody. And there's still some out there that, Chris and I talk about, we're going, how are they still doing this when we're seeing it? And, I'm going, I think it's a matter of time, but what does that do if you're the one working with them and it gets shut down and you're scrambling, and with Vamp coming, there's only going to be
that's the bigger one with Vamp coming. I don't know how much cover they're going to have after that.
I spoke to somebody today and they said, I've got a solution. Don't take Visa. It's like, that's basically it. For a lot of merchants, you're going to be just fine if you're not taking Visa.
Yeah, but that's the interesting part, right? I mean, this is kind of off topic, but MasterCard always just sort of like acts like little brother and like runs parallel. This is actually an opportunity for MasterCard to really take market share. Yeah.
Get those cards out there. I was just talking to someone and they're going, well, how about crypto to get around Vamp? And he's going, what are the likelihoods that somebody has a Bitcoin in their back pocket versus a MasterCard?
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Payments Experts Podcast, a podcast of Global Legal Law Firm. Visit us online today at globallegallawfirm.com. matters discussed are all opinions and do not constitute legal advice. All events or likeness to real people and events is a coincidence.